We've devised a clever plan to escape our confinement. It involves a long-running series of podcasts on movies to get you to trust us. Then, when the time is right, our subliminal mind control will compel you to visit patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the cost of that set of rusty spoons used to dig out that tunnel behind you, you can support our little mind control experiment. I mean, podcast. Yes, that's right. Again, that's patreon.com/evacstation. And, can you hear me that glowing green rock behind you? I need it for a friend. Welcome to the After Credits Podcast. We've only got a few days to live because we flew too close to the sun. Oh wait, nope, never mind. That was Icarus. We are Aaron J. Waseska, and with me today I've got Ryan Metters.
Hello there.
Howdy, welcome to the show, Ryan. How you doing?
Pretty good here.
Yeah. Ryan, if you were a fan of the podcast, but you need to know where to find us, where's the place we could go to find us?
That we could find us into Why the Hell Would You Fly Into the Sun at sorry. You can find us at evacstation@gmail.com.
That is one of the many places you can find us. I think you can also find us at Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. You can also find us on your platform of choice for podcasts. That includes iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Make sure you leave reviews to help us be found by other people who may like movie podcasts like you do. And leave comments, questions, and also emails. Fan mail is always great. And we will read them on the show whenever we get them. As soon as we get them, we record ahead, so it may not be, like, you understand. Anyway, Ryan, I got a question of the week for you because we already did our What You Watching last episode.
Yes, indeed.
So the question of the week, and if anyone in the audience wants to answer this in the comments, feel free to, and I might read them in the next episode whenever I see it. If you were given Superman's super juice, what do you honestly think you would do with your temporary superpowers?
Man, I tell you what, I often think about what I would do with superpowers and like what kind of superpowers I would want, and I always lean towards superpowers that could cause a lasting benefit to my life after I had them, or like things that I could use to just improve my overall quality of life. I don't know how to do that with 24 hours of Superman juice. So I don't really know what I would do. I think I might like fly around and try to see the world, maybe see what the Earth looks like from space, and just pretty much go out. Because if I only have 24 hours, then I definitely want to see everything. I'd love to fly for just hours on end. I'd love to possibly see possibly like walk on the moon and things like that. Yeah, that's what I would do.
I like that. I would probably do something similar. So one of Superman's lesser-known powers or lesser-known skills, I guess to put it, is his super speed. I mean, we all know he's got super speed, but he can speed read, he can speed learn. His brain works faster than most humans, except for those with the Speed Force, but they're cheating. But he works faster than most humans in terms of brain power. Ryan, imagine how many things you could learn in the 24 hours as Superman.
Ooh, see, that's the perfect answer. If you could retain the knowledge that you gained from those 24 hours, then yeah, 100%. I'd learn a bunch of languages. I would set myself up, like probably pick up a couple of dozen programming languages. Yeah, I would set myself up like that. Knowledge, that's the perfect answer. Good job, Aaron.
I would fly a pile of books and myself to the moon where I wouldn't be distracted, and I would read a bunch of shit with a great ass view.
Yeah. Well done. That's the perfect answer. Good job, man.
I sometimes I don't get it, but today I nailed it. I feel pretty good.
You nailed it. You nailed it, sir.
Well,
okay. So if anybody just designs this super juice, you know who to come to first. Let us holler at that.
Yeah, give us a holler, and then we'll learn how to make more super juice, so we can do this for everybody. Well, everybody who's responsible.
Maybe not everybody.
Yeah. There's that one guy in prison I wouldn't give it to.
Bald guy, bit of an asshole.
Little bit. I call him Walter White. Continuing the Super Week for our Crisis of Infinite Films, our comparison piece for Man of Steel is All-Star Superman, released in 2011 under the direction of Sam Liu, written by Dwayne McDuffie, and based on the graphic novel of Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely.
Mm-hmm.
Our voice cast includes Edward Asner, Steve Blum, who's really good at almost everything I've seen him in.
100%.
Francis Conroy, Christina Hendricks, Anthony LaPaglia, and Dr. Hunky himself, James Denton. I don't know if anyone caught that one, but that's a Reba reference there. I'm getting really old school there. The film features, again... the film, again, is a straight-to-DVD animation, so no box office to share with you. I'm sorry, guys. The star-studded cast of people I don't actually recognize too much will go on to win an award for this film from the Behind the Voice Actors Awards for the Best Voice Ensemble in TV/direct-to-DVD title or shorts. Very specific. Have to wonder how often that gets awarded. Over to Ryan for the fun facts or two.
Yeah, we got a couple of them here for you. Based on Grant Morrison's magnum opus of the same name, All-Star Superman was actually powerfully adapted by TV and comics writer Dwayne McDuffie. Now, McDuffie was an influential creator in his own right, and he created the Static Shock character and wrote his stories in both comic and cartoon series form. I swear to God, if DC ever brings back a Static Shock,
do it.
That's a really good idea.
I grew up with that shit. I love it. I know a lot of people in my friend group didn't really get into it, but I was pretty hype on it.
You know y'all want to cash in on that Black Panther money. If you give us a really good Static Shock, you'll get a taste of that.
He's Black Magneto and a good guy. Do it.
Yeah. Guys, come on. It fucking shit writes itself. So sadly, this would prove to be one of the last projects that Dwayne McDuffie would see to fruition as he passed away on February 21st, 2011. Not only would this be the day before the film's release, but it was one day after his birthday as well. So, one fun fact and one somber fact.
I know a guy who's really into comics I used to work with, and he made the claim that while a Static Shock movie would be pretty interesting, with Dwayne McDuffie having passed away not so early in his life, there's a very, very small chance it'll ever happen because he would have been the only one really pushing for it as hard as he could.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
That disappoints me a bit because... So, when the New 52 launched, they actually had a run of Static Shock comics, and I was actually trying to read them, and they were pretty good. They canceled it after the first year and replaced it with more variations of Batman. Because DC can only do one thing right.
Yeah, it's Batman.
Yep.
Guys, it's Batman.
I'm sorry to hate on DC, guys, but they threw away a original, fun, interesting character and gave me more Batman.
I'm so serious. I just thought of that whole Black Panther bit, but hand to God, if they did a really well done Static Shock, they'd be right there in the game with them. They would be right there. That movie would print money. All right, it would print it.
Here's the thing: you could make 5 more movies as bad as Batman vs Superman. If you made even one Static Shock, I don't care how bad your track record's been, I would give it a chance. I would go and see it.
Oh, well.
I'm optimistic. I would give it a chance. Well, Ryan. Speaking of giving things a chance, let's give this movie a chance here. So, what are your initial thoughts before I get into the synopsis here?
Well, I've also read the graphic novel by Grant Morrison, so I was familiar with the story. It's really interesting that we're comparing and contrasting these two pieces, as Man of Steel is Superman's origin story, and this is Superman's kind of grand send-off. Overall, I liked it. The graphic novel actually has a bunch more stories within it that detail the last days of Superman. So this, the animation has to pick and choose the biggest ones of the book to really portray. So I can see, like, it does feel a little kind of like it jumps all over the place, but I think the grand send off that they give him, and like literally flying into the sun so that he can light the world with his hope and justice and freedom for all time. I thought that was a really great way to end the character.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you said is it hits one of my concerns in the head. I felt the pacing was a bit off at times, but like you said, it's probably because they picked and chose which parts they wanted to use. But I really like the themes they're trying to tackle, and I love the film's resolution at the very end, and I can see why it's such a highly regarded piece of work. And I'm definitely looking forward to kind of diving into this and really seeing what works and what doesn't. You ready?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Ahem. And I literally wrote this up last minute because I came onto this notepad here, realizing, oh shit, I didn't finish writing this one. Let me see what I got. So if something sounds off, my bad, I kind of wrote this in a rush. Superman foils another convoluted Luthor plan, only for his body to be overpowered by the sun. Apparently that's a thing. Superman has been given an intermittent amount of time to live. So he is off to do all the things he wanted to do before he dies. He tells Lois his identity and gives her own superpowers temporarily, so they can have little mini adventures together. Together they have several such adventures like fighting mole people, flying around, and meeting two dudes who totally want to show Lois their Eiffel Tower, if you know what I mean.
Fuck those guys.
Some weird multi-dimensional monster shows up to be a discount Riddler, and Superman outsmarts him with some future headlines. Meanwhile, Luthor is in jail, scheduled for execution for his, convoluted plan I mentioned a minute ago. He speaks to Clark Kent about his life and why he detests Superman. Then Clark saves his life from a rogue parasite. In a ironic twist of fate, Luthor will never fully comprehend. He ends his interview stating he isn't interested in escaping as long as Superman dies before his execution. After Superman takes a micro-city to another planet, he returns to find some lost Kryptonians astronauts have arrived and basically turned Metropolis into Little Krypton. Like Little Italy. The two new arrivals seem altruistic, but they have ulterior motives of terraforming Earth into Krypton. That doesn't sound familiar at all.
No.
But their plans are cut short when they become ill. Superman tells them it's because they flew through the remains of Krypton, which has filled their bodies with kryptonite particles. He sends them to the Phantom Zone until they can be cured, eventually. Kind of like what we did with Max, until we could determine which one was the real clone.
Oh god, do we still have to sort through that? Fuck.
I think we do. I thought I marked them with like a little red X in the back of their head. It turns out I did that for all of them.
Damn it!
Listen, they all wanted a tattoo. It seemed like the good thing to do. It was cheap. Unbeknownst to Superman, Luthor had at some point reprogrammed one of Superman's robot slaves, which technically is just a robot because word slave, the word robot has Latin roots meaning slave. It steals a vial of Superman's super jizz, which Luthor drinks to gain Superman's powers. He escapes and causes chaos to Metropolis with the help of Solaris, a sun computer monster. Superman manages to handle both, finding a way to warp time for Luthor and end his super jizz effects even faster. 2-minute man, ladies, am I right? After a tearful goodbye, Superman flies into the sun before he explodes from his sun overdose. A year later, there's a memorial for Superman. Luthor, having gained the knowledge of the super serum, passes it on to one of his scientists with a theory on how to create a healthy embryo from it. And Superman resides in the sun as a solar being, working on some strange device within the gaseous sphere. Yep, That's a lot of shit right there. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this movie?
You know, it wouldn't be Superman's like final send-off if he didn't have to fight like 18 different world-ending things at the same time. He literally fights off a sun.
And they all come at him so quick in that rapid pace. It's like, oh man, can you like get a minute to breathe? Come on now.
No, can't. He's dying.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, I had no problem with him fighting all these different threats. I think I kind of like seeing Superman beat challenge in a way, because having him fight just one bad guy at a time, like, and just dealing with one threat every so often, it feels like it's too easy for him. Having him go from one to the next, no real stop, kind of keeps it interesting. It kind of makes it seem like, okay, he never really has any time to rest because he has to be everywhere at once.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much the answer to the how do you keep Superman interesting question. That you can't just throw one plot at him. You have to throw 10 at him, like in the hopes that maybe he moves slow enough once so that one of them actually goes off.
Now, admittedly, you don't do this for a movie because that's really ambitious and expensive, and I'm sure Zack Snyder couldn't pull it off very easily. But in an animated setting or in a comic book setting, very doable because the budget's smaller and you have a little more forgiving amount of time to work with. A little more. But yeah, no, I overall thought this was interesting. I definitely didn't have any problems with the story. I think I kind of like the lighthearted tone to it. I like that it also references a lot of his like past adventures that he has. Like you see like the sun-eating monster. You see all these different like relics in his like what do you call it? His Fortress of Solitude, and it reminds me of the Batcave a little bit, where you go in and you see all these old things from Batman's previous like adventures and shit. I'm like, you know, this is what I needed from a Superman movie once. Is just seeing all the cool things he's done in the past that we're never gonna see, but the mystery, the stories, they're all there. We can make our own kind of interpretations of it.
Yeah. So I know you got some discussion questions here. What do you?
Yeah.
What shall we talk about first?
Well, let's start with the heavy one here. What do you think of this iteration of Luthor and Superman?
In all honesty, I think it's my favorite. I feel like they really drill down to the core of both of these characters, which makes sense. If this is going to be like the final Superman like saga, you have to have it be like the best rendition of Luthor and Superman at the same time. So I really, really liked. I loved seeing Luthor and like the jaunt through the prison and the random purple monster. I loved it specifically because we just got to like hear Luthor kind of just like expound and like temporaneously just like forever just about how great he is, or like you really get to see him lay out his philosophy on why Superman is a piece of shit and why like he degrades humanity simply by existing, and how he's so great, and like why he's actually great in comparison to Superman. Whereas throughout the entire like storyline and all of these random things that are happening in the final days of Superman, you really get to see the things that make him great and make him the greatest superhero of all time in this story. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think you get quintessential Superman v Luthor in this, and I think it's very, very well done. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm the best fan of the particular voice actors chosen. Of course, I grew up with the one that they used for the DC AU, and that voice for Luthor is almost perfect for me. But when it comes to the actual like writing and the characters and what they do, yeah, no, there's no comparison. I think this Luthor really hands down has that cold, calculated intelligence. He has that whole like anti-Superman thing down to a T. He is the embodiment of the character through and through. And Superman is pretty much the same in that regard. Like he mirrors Luthor's whole. He's the opposite of Luthor in every way here, and you exemplify that at the very end too with Luthor getting that serum, and how he uses it versus how Superman has always used his powers. And it makes such an interesting case study for these two characters. They're never going to be the same level as Batman and Joker, where with how you study the characters and their nuances. But this is probably the absolute closest and the best examples of the two characters that you could definitely make that case with.
Yeah, I think the biggest stories, the best stories where where you have these the polar opposites come face to face is really where you show them at their most extreme, and then at the end you bring them the very closest they've ever gotten to actually seeing eye to eye, because you really see the gamut of it.
And so, they did that literally here.
They did it. No, they absolutely did it. The two places in this movie that really stuck out to me was towards the end, where Superman finally visits Luthor in prison and he says, "You win. I'm dying. But I have a challenge for you." He's like, "You have the 3 weeks until your execution. You've been talking this huge game on how you would have saved humanity and how you would have made the world a better place. I challenge you to do it. And the little bit of time you have left, I challenge you to prove me wrong and actually put your intellect to good use." Where he's trying to kind of stoop to Luthor's level and trying to get him to come up, and Luthor just walks up to him and spits in his face. No words. Perfect Superman versus Luthor. It was the most poetic you could ever put their two, the differences between the two of them. And you contrast that with Luthor finally getting the powers and literally seeing things as Superman sees them. And that was the answer to the equation, because he had to actually be in Superman's shoes to really see why he did what he did.
Indeed. And I think that they... So we're going to jump to that question, I guess, really quickly here. With the handling... with where did I have that? Did I even write that one down? Okay, I guess I didn't. So basically, at the end of the movie, with the super serum fading away, Luthor sees, what is it he sees exactly, right? He just sees, the particles and molecules and how things are built up. He sees the building blocks of life, basically, with his... Right,
he sees that the universal forces are actually connected by life in, a matter of quantum entanglement. And, it's literally... he literally comes to, the purpose of life and everything that holds us together is just us being here together. That's it. All we have is us. That's it.
And that scene is very powerful, and it's probably the most powerful scene I've ever seen of Luthor in a while, if not ever. And man, does it really put me into a corner when it comes to the next week's Luthor we're gonna have to endure.
Yeah. God damn it. Oh, man. Yeah, this is really going to make me mad at Jesse Eisenberg. And I love that dude, but fuck.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg, you are good in a lot of different roles. That was not one of them.
Nope.
We'll get to that next week, though. We'll get to next week. Okay. So we already talked about the movie alluding to other adventures. Did any of the adventures that were alluded to during the Fortress of Solitude or during conversations, did any of those sound interesting enough for you to want to check them out?
I'm
curious about the Sun Eater stuff. I'd love to see more details as to where that came from.
I would more so. I would like to know how exactly Superman creates miniature suns with his cosmic anvil to feed his pet Sun Eater. I would love to. He said that so fucking nonchalantly. What do you feed it? He's like, suns with my cosmic anvil.
And
he just creates a little mini galaxy. He creates a couple of galaxies to feed to his pet. I'm like, what the fuck?
I have to wonder, is that hammer as powerful as Mjolnir? And if not, what would happen if I banged Mjolnir on the cosmic anvil?
Oh my god.
Would I break reality?
I think so. I think so.
But I think the Sunny Year is probably one of my favorite little nods to other adventures, and it's probably the biggest one too, for being honest here. And like I said, I would love to have just seen where it came from, how he got a cosmic hammer to feed it. There's just so many little details in that fortress that I could go on about, but like that's the one that sticks out to me the most, probably. Which I guess also would make it the weirdest thing, which is my next question: is what's the weirdest thing in the Fortress of Solitude? It's probably that, but I'd also say the robot servants seem a little weird.
Yeah, the robot, like, I was cool with the robot servants, like, until, like, we get to the very end where, like, Robot 7, like, admits that he was the one who gave Lex the super serum, and that he essentially sacrifices himself to a toad, and I'm like, that's still a robot, right? What the fuck?
Oh no, why was I programmed to feel pain?
Why was I programmed to have a crisis of conscience?
Okay.
That was a lot odd.
Yeah. That was definitely a weird scene at the end, too. Yeah, I when it happened, I'm like, wait a minute. Did they ever kind of allude to that at all? I must have missed the moment where it looked like one of the robots is acting shifty, because I think I missed it because there was that whole scene where Lois was paranoid about everything.
Yeah, that was also a little odd.
And I'm like, wait a minute, Lois, why are you paranoid about everything Superman's doing? You've known him for years.
Oh my God, he's brought me here to be the mother of his like alien race of children that will take over the world. Oh God, I have to kill Superman. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that just derailed. And I get he explained it was like some weird chemical or some shit that she had inhaled, but like, man, why did you even have to have that? That was just fucking weird as shit. I feel like that was in there to create a conflict that doesn't need a conflict.
Yeah, that was manufactured tension. That's what that was.
Yep. Speaking of tension that was not manufactured, oh boy, that Parasite prison sequence, that was fucking cool.
Yeah. Like I was okay with the. I was pretty okay with the monster in and of itself. I was just more happy to hear Lex kind of ramble on about how he sees the world. That was the big like takeaway from that one from me personally. Actually, the monster was alright. Actually,
what I liked about it more, the monster is cool, and I also like Luthor's little rant. He's fun to listen to. He's like J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man 4. You know, listen to those podcasts. It's funny. Anyway, no, the reason I like the sequence is because during the whole sequence, while he's ranting about how, you know, he's better than Superman, basically, you have Superman right under his nose doing Superman things as Clark Kent without Luthor catching a whiff of it. And it's hilarious, just all the shit Superman's doing to keep the two of them alive, and Luthor has no fucking idea.
Yeah, I love that too.
And it's like, I want to see more scenes of Clark Kent doing Superman things without anyone knowing, because I feel like that would be a fun, like, just side adventure. Like, just how long could he keep doing these weird superhero things and not have anyone even look at him and notice it?
Yeah, I loved seeing like Clark Kent being like so like bumbly and like comedically ungraceful, like whereas Superman is literally a god. His Clark Kent persona, it's so far removed that it makes perfect sense that no one would ever in their right mind think that Clark Kent was Superman.
And I think this is why this helps make this one of the best Superman examples too, because he does bumble, he does make mistakes, and they do a good job painting that difference between with Superman and Clark. Even the animated series, from what I remember watching, they didn't have that great a distinction. Clark Kent still looked like a really buff, tough, like, dude who carried himself very well. And sure, it's cool, but how do you not know that's Superman? This guy, it's like, I can understand why people would make that mistake. They did a really good job giving us that difference. It's like when in the cartoons, when Batman has a different voice for being Batman and one for Bruce Wayne. They did it really well in the animated series, and then in the live action, they kind of took it a little too far. Yeah, there's a fine line. Just got to find where it is. How do you feel about Clark handling the Kryptonians in this film?
I wasn't the hugest fan of it until the very end, like, cause when I finally like saw what it was actually like going for, cause he just kind of let the Kryptonians run roughshod like over everybody and just like do whatever the fuck they wanted. I don't know if it was that he was nearing the end of his time and he had just completed that 3-week trip, so he was tired, or if he knew that they were dying with the kryptonite in their system, and he was just kind of letting them get it all out of their system before like they just fell out. But he kind of just accepted whatever they were doing, like as long as they weren't like causing wanton destruction. He just kind of let them do whatever the fuck they wanted to, and it was all to really showcase his kindness at the end and his forgiveness. Like, even though we treated you horribly and thought to take over this world by ourselves, you still treat us with respect. You are the greatest son of Krypton and what have you. So I'm like, I see where they were going for, what they were going for, but it didn't really pay off for me until like the very end, and even then it was okay.
How did they handle that in the comics? Actually, I'm very curious. Or do they even have?
No, I mean that's how they do it in the comic too. It's one of the stories that I didn't particularly like enjoy, but that's how they do it.
Okay, yeah, it definitely feels more or less kind of shoehorned in there to give us like one last sign off to Kryptonians maybe, and to give us a reminder of the Phantom Zone, which has like Zod and all these other things going on in there. So I don't know. I feel like it's a rushed sequence. It probably could have been fleshed out a bit more, and you could have done something fun with it, but they didn't have a lot of time. I understand that much. Okay. One of my favorite lines in this movie, and we already discussed it a little bit, is when Superman says to Luthor, "You could have saved the world years ago." What do you make of that? What in what way do you think Superman was referring to? Do you think it's just his intelligence, or do you think there's something more Luthor could have done?
Well, I mean, I think it really drove home the point where, because you had that scene where he challenged him to like really make the world a better place. Like, okay, you have 3 weeks, prove me wrong. Like, do it. Like, I'm leaving, and you have 3 weeks to live. Go ahead and fix the world. And he refused to. He just like refused to out of sheer principle. And it was only when he saw things as Superman did that he realized he actually had the power to do it, because everything was connected by thought, by will, by life, and that in this world we are literally all that we have. It's just us in it together. And when he loses that, the first thing he says is like, oh my god, I can get that power back and do it. And when Superman destroys his last vial, he says, I could have saved the world if it wasn't for you. And Superman's answer, of course, is you could have saved the world years ago. Because it doesn't take Superman's power to realize to come to that conclusion, that truth that he hit, that they're literally all in it together. And that looking out for only yourself is childish and horrible, because we're literally all that we have. So I feel like that's like the final condemnation of Lex Luthor. Is like his ego and his pride got in the way of him actually saving the world, which he could have done had Superman's sheer existence not bruised his pride.
I feel like that's the lesson a lot of Republicans can take away from this.
You don't say.
How do you feel this film handles Superman's quote-unquote death?
I like it. I do like it. I think it leaves just like the barest hint of possibility that he might not be dead. And I like that because it keeps the hope alive. Like whether or not he's actually dead, the sun now lives in testament to all of the good works that he's done for the entire planet. He has become the bright light that shines on the world and brings people to the break of day. Like I thought that's a great metaphor, and using the sun, like, which gave him his powers. The sun is now the everlasting testament to all the good he's done. I thought that was really, really gorgeous and really beautifully done.
I agree, and I want to touch on the more human side of things. I like that they had a memorial for him, and it felt like it was earned. Like, it felt like when he died that there were actually people who were going to miss him, and not because he was the Messiah, but because they knew him. They actually cared about him. He actually cared about them. He was a part of the world. He was, like you said earlier, they're all connected. He was connected to all of them as like this pillar of a community, not just, oh hey, it's Jesus but with a cape. And
oh my God, you hit it right there on the head.
And the memorial here just felt earned. It felt like everyone was going to actually genuinely miss him. And I really appreciate that they built up to it in such a meaningful, dramatic way.
Yeah, I mean the concept of Superman as a superhero is really, really cool, because the majority of superheroes start as people who then ascend beyond like the limits of humanity to save people. Clark Kent, Kal-El, he starts above humanity with all of these powers and literally as a being coming from another planet. And his whole trajectory was not to stay above the people as a god, Zack Snyder, but to bring himself down to people, to connect to the people that he wanted to live amongst and he wanted to save. Like, like that, like him bringing himself closer to humanity, and which is reflected by his death, because people aren't there worshiping him like the Messiah, but they respect and honor him as someone who truly embraced what it meant to be human and to live among them. And so his passing was treated like a dear family member as opposed to God dying. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It makes it much more personal. And I feel like that's the real thesis statement behind like Superman as a superhero. You know, he doesn't strive to stand apart, but he strives to become one of us and use his powers to save the people that he holds dear, which is the entire world, because he wants to live among them.
Well, I think we may have a thesis statement for our episode when we get to the comparison piece, but we'll get to that in a minute. Last question I have for you here. Is it safe to suspect that Dr. Quintum is going to make a Superboy from the Luthor serum?
Probably. I mean, like the funny thing about that is that Dr. Quintum is actually in the comic. Dr. Quintum is actually given that serum by Clark. Like, Clark actually maps out his own genetic code and gives it to Dr. Quintum. Whereas I like what they did. Like, that's actually one of the things that I love more in the animation than in the graphics, because they decided to make that as like a final act of repentance, where Luthor, like, it shows that Luthor actually changed at the end.
Actually, yeah, no, that sounds really powerful for Luthor. I like that they did it this way.
Yeah, the fact that at the very end, even after Superman died, like, after he had stood in Superman's shoes and saw through his eyes and realized the truth of life, his final act of repentance is to help bring about another Superman. And to do it in a way where, like, essentially Lois could have his child. That was really, really cool and a very welcome change, I think.
You know, I like it when a movie or an adaptation changes the ending, but does it in a way that improves upon it.
Me too. It's very rare.
It's rare, but I can think of one other instance, which is the movie The Mist. According to sources, Stephen King actually says he prefers the end of the movie because it does what his book couldn't do. And I really think that when we get to that movie at some point down the road, and I totally plan to do it, it's a rare treat to see an ending improve in an adaptation. But when they can do it, man, they figure out the best ways to do it.
All right. Well, I haven't seen or read it, so when we get there, you're going to have to tell me how they changed it, okay?
All right. I can do that. With that, let's move on to our next segment. The mailbag, a quick shout out to the mailbag, because I know we've got fan mail before. We'll get some more down the road. Probably, hopefully, maybe. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, you can send those to Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and we have a lovely email. Ryan, what is that email?
That is too much sun is bad for your skin at Gmail. Sorry, that is evacstation at gmail.com.
We should get this mold checked out. Yeah. And if you want to review us on Podcast, Google Play, or Podcast Addict, Google Play, iTunes, 5 stars and higher, or 5 stars, whatever the maximum is, whatever platform it's on, that'll help people find us, and we'd love more people to find us and enjoy this show. And, go to patreon.com/evacstation to donate a few bucks a month to help support this show. We would love to have some support. Ryan, we got a little extra time here. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of Super Triv.
Aw, shit.
So, I've got some triv for you, Ryan, and it is all about the boy in blue. Are you ready for some super triv?
I am ready to get embarrassed.
In what year was Superman born?
Jesus. As in born in the comics, or born like actually conceived, like as a comic, as a comic, or
as a character within the world of his comic.
Okay.
I know it's confusing. Let's put it this way: the next question is the other question you're thinking of.
Okay. Okay. Shit. You have no clue. I literally have no clue.
According to various sources, 1933.
Jesus. Wow, that's old.
Yeah, he's almost 100 years old pretty soon. Ryan, when was the first Superman comic book published?
That's what I was thinking. I know it's actually around the same time. Fuck. I wanna guess probably 1938.
Ding ding ding! We have a winner.
Yes, it's a sheer guess. I love it.
Love it. Ryan, how old were the artists when they first created Superman?
Oof.
This answer may surprise you.
I know they were pretty young and new to the game. I want to say probably 21, 22.
You overshot just a little bit. They were actually teenagers in high school.
Are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh.
It kind of makes me feel ashamed that I'm 30 and I haven't published a damn thing yet.
Oh, man.
What is the name of Superman's home planet, and what is his birth name?
Aha! I got this one. He was from the planet Krypton, and his birth name is Kal-El.
I'll have to fact check that, but I do believe you're correct.
Yes, the House of El signifies hope.
And the last one here, speaking of hope, Ryan, drawing the S insignia upside down, what does that change the meaning to?
Man, wait, what? Oh, Jesus.
I actually found this very interesting when I read it, so I thought I'd share it here.
Fuck. What would it be?
Well, I can give you a hint, but but only if you ask for it.
What is... Oh, hope upside down?
I think it's Epo.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's backwards. Like, what am I thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, actually.
Let's just say if Zack Snyder knew what this meaning was, he probably would have put it in his movie, and it would have made things even less subtle.
Oh, it means something like resurrection or some shit, doesn't it?
It means resurrection. You are a winner.
God.
And Superman has come back from the dead at least once, twice, probably 10 times by now.
We need another subtle hint that he's gonna come back. I'm like, guys, we know he's gonna come back. We're doing the Justice League. 20 minutes of this movie was the fucking trailers for your upcoming films. Of course, we're doing Justice League.
God,
of course he's coming back.
I have so many problems with the death of Superman in that next movie we're doing. I cannot wait to fucking rip it apart.
Yay!
Okay. So before we get to ripping that movie apart, we gotta finish this movie, Ryan, with the closing segment, which is Who Wore It Better? Man of Steel, All-Star Superman. This is a strange but apt comparison, I think.
I think so too. I think it's a tighter race than I thought it was going to be, and that's because that's because I realized that I liked Man of Steel more than I remembered it. It definitely has its issues, and I think I think that the failed the missed possibilities, missed opportunities, they don't exactly outweigh the possibilities, but it weighs it down pretty heavily. But I think All-Star Superman really gets to the heart of what it means to be Superman. What Superman stands for, both as a hero and as a concept towards just humanity. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the title to All-Star Superman.
Yeah, I am gonna concur. I think I like how I agree. I like how they handle Superman as a character. I like how they handle Luthor as a character. I like how Superman deals with conflicts in the way he does, and I like just the world they've set up and all the possibilities that have happened and all these stories we only get to hear snippets of. And there's a heart and soul to this movie that Snyder's vision just doesn't have. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's the worst. I'm just saying it doesn't have the same heart and vision that All-Star Superman has. And the weird thing about trying to find a comparison film for Man of Steel is none of the animated movies really hit an origin film for Superman. A lot of them, from what I saw, are either him with other people, like a team, like Batman or Wonder Woman or whatever, or they are something that shows him already in progress, something where he's already been established as a hero. So it was really hard to find something that compared to this really well. But I think this does a good job because Man of Steel tries so very hard to not be classic Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman. But it does so hard in doing that it misses what really makes Superman what he is.
Superman, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is probably the most important part of this film and of this comparison. We're not trying to down Man of Steel at all. I think that there is definitely something salvageable there that is worth making something more out of. But it just lacked the heart and soul of what a Superman film should have.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that.
And yeah, I feel like that kind of sums up our thoughts there. That was fairly quick, actually. I'm surprised we got it done in under 50 minutes. Ryan, what should we fill the rest of our time with? I'm kidding.
Dread for next week's movie.
Yeah. So when you guys are listening to this, we are actually going to be doing what's next on our schedule? Oh yeah, Batman vs Superman versus Batman and Superman. That's going to be a fun week.
Isn't it though?
Robbie will be back next week.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be great. But I'm excited for that because we just finished watching Batman and Superman World's Finest for the comparison bit, and I had fun with it. Not as much fun as I've had before, but I've seen it enough times where it kind of starts to feel a bit like, oh, I've seen it before. I know what happens. Yada, yada, yada. So,
See, no, I've actually never seen it, so it'll be interesting for me to check that out.
All right. I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are, because, I mean, it brings Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill back into the fold.
Yes.
I mean, that already kind of gives them an advantage, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, are we entertaining the notion that Batman vs. Superman has a chance of being... Are we pretending? I'm sorry. Is this playtime?
We're basically throwing in a gimp monkey versus, like, a fucking lion. And the lion's already got, like, Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy on the back writing it. But hey, you know what? It's a fair fight for somebody. So yeah, that's next week. We're actually going to record next week for ourselves the new release, Glass, which you guys have already listened to.
So excited for. Oh my god.
I gotta make sure Bo is ready to go, because I haven't heard back from him yet, and I need to make sure he's up for next week, because I know it's going to be a quick turnaround. So
yeah, Allegra and I are going to watch it on Friday.
We actually going to get discount tickets, and we're going to see it sometime this weekend as well. I just don't know when yet. We have a 3-day weekend, so I have plenty of time to figure it out.
Nice.
But yeah, that is all for this week. Tune in next week for the big controversial film, and then a few less controversial films until we get to Justice League, which neither of us have seen because we put it off for so damn long. I'll have to bring Robbie back for that one too, since he was the one who asked about us whether we both seen it or not during the Aquaman movie. Yeah. Can we watch Aquaman again? That was fun.
I'd be down to go see Aquaman again.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye!